Hello, my friends. It's attorney Anthony Bandiero here, bringing you the Roadside Chat. This question comes from an officer in Arizona. Basically want to know, can unprovoked flight occur as during a consensual encounter? So basically what the officer is saying is, hey, if one of my officers goes out with somebody during, to attempt a consensual encounter, the person decides to run, during that consensual encounter, and it's also a high crime area, can that equal an unprovoked flight? And generally the answer is yes, the law is in favor, even though those facts are very limited. And I would love to hear more about what's going on here, not just those very simple facts, but taking it as face value, the law is more in favor of detention than not. Okay, so let's go through the doctrine. The doctrine comes from Illinois versus Warlows, where a marked unit was patrolling a high crime area in Chicago. Warlows saw the marked unit and basically immediately turned around and started running. The cops gave chase. They detained Warlows. Evidence was found. We're going from there. Warlows kind of arguing, hey, look, I have a right to be left alone. I didn't do anything wrong. Also there may be reasons why people do run from the police. It's not just because we're engaged in illegal activity. Maybe we're scared of the cops and so forth. And certainly that has some courts are going to give that some attention, right? However, avoidance is one thing. Evasion is another, right? So in order to have unprovoked flight, here's what I teach. Number one is underlying criminal activity, mainly high crime areas, but it doesn't have to be a high crime area. It can be a low crime area with a spike in auto burglaries, daytime home invasions, uptick in graffiti, and you think this guy may be involved in it, and so forth. So underlying criminal activity. Number two, known officer. It just makes sense that we're going to extend the unprovoked flight doctrine to when we can prove that the person is running because they believe the person is a cop. Not necessarily for example, if the cop is running around in a unmarked unit or an undercover unit and they run, they can maybe make the argument that I wasn't running because I thought I was a cop. I was running because, hey, you said it yourself, this is a high crime area. I don't know what you're all about and creeping around the neighborhoods at 2 o'clock in the morning. I thought I was going to be in danger. So underlying criminal activity, known officer, and finally, unprovoked flight. It's unprovoked in the sense that the cops did not cause the person to run, and it's flight. It's type of evasion. It's not just mere avoidance. Again, people can avoid you without repercussions. That's a constitutional right, but it's not, that type of avoidance is like, putting up your hand and saying, officer, I don't want to talk to you, or seeing a cop and kind of taking the long path around the officer. That's avoidance. Evasion is seeing the officer and then turning around and starting to run. As one quote said in that talks about unprovoked flight in a treatise that I have, it's from the Warrantless Search Law Desk book. Obviously, the mere exercise of a constitutional right cannot in and of itself give rise to suspicion, which negates the ability to exercise that right. In other words, it's not reasonable suspicion to just want to be left alone, right? So it was not the fact that Warlows chose not to interact with the officers, but rather the way in which he manifested that decision. Flight as soon as Warlows saw the officers. The court has recognized that evasive conduct is a factor to consider in evaluating reasonable suspicion, right? So again, it's not the fact that the guy merely wants to avoid the cops. He can do that. But why do you believe he's acting like a guilty person, right? Quote, headlong flight, wherever it occurs, is the consummate act of evasion. It is not necessarily indicative of wrongdoing, but is certainly suggestive of such, right? So why do you think that this person is acting like a guilty person with some underlying criminal activity on side of a police officer, right? You're the trigger on that. They want to get away so they don't get caught. That's kind of what we're talking about with unprovoked flight. Now, unprovoked flight gets you the reasonable suspicion. It doesn't get you an arrest in most states. However, after the guy runs and you say, "Stop, police," and they keep running, in many places that is a obstruction issue, failure to obey a lawful order, that may get you probable cause. But most of the time, you're just going to detain this person, figure out what's going on, see if they have a justification for what they're doing, and you go from there. I hope it helps. I hope I'm moving the ball forward. If you like it, do me a favor, hit like button, subscribe, let your friends know. And I hope that we have at least moved the ball forward so that you get it right every time.
When it comes to law enforcement training, we are the gold standard. Visit bluetogold.com or call 888-579-7796 to learn more about our training, books, and free webinars. Also, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel.